My sister evicted our parents from the house I bought, so I evicted her name from the deed. I sat with a lawyer, triggered the clause, and changed the locks. Charity isn't a ladder for greed. Mom and Dad moved back in. Entitlement moved out. My name's Evan. We grew up in Cleveland, old Brooklyn. Thin walls, cold radiators. Mom's lotion-slicked hands and Dad's knuckles split like winter sidewalks. Frank hauled bags of bottles and cans for a recycler off Ridge Road. Linda washed dishes at a diner on Denison where the clock ran 5 minutes fast to hustle tips. At 12 I started flyers, then scrap runs with Dad, then light hauling with a borrowed dolly. Every $15 to $25 went into the chipped blue jar on our kitchen counter, the one that smelled faintly like VapoRub. Brooke saw the same rooms and chose different doors. Brooke's first paycheck from Trend Lab became sneakers with a gold swoosh, a Sephora haul, and selfies by other people's pools. Bringing your tiny checks home? You're keeping them poor. She tossed over her shoulder, gloss shining like armor. When Dad's back went out loading crates at 4 a.m., he moved like a marionette with 3 strings cut. Mom took doubles, came home with dishwasher steam cooked into her hair, and said she was fine, meaning don't ask. Brooke moved in with Tyler, part-time personal trainer, full-time ring light, and stopped noticing the bills except when a pink envelope ruined her vibe. At Brooke's wedding the MC called her a self-made queen, and the crowd clapped at the word queen like it made money. They called me Mama's boy when I carried trays and stacked chairs. Tyler's best man dedicated Rich Girl to our new family, and dipped Brooke low for the kiss. She laughed and glitter fell off her dress onto the rented parquet like it belonged more than we did. I watched Dad sway in a folding chair, hand on his lower back, and I promised myself then, my parents would live in a house, not just under her photos. I learned to keep receipts, literal and otherwise. I counted soft tips into hard envelopes. I bought a Fluke multimeter off Marketplace and tuned my side gig. Nights replacing dimmers, fixing dead outlets, sealing drafty windows with clear caulk and a hairdryer. Mr. Gallo next door paid me in cash and leftover marinara. The cash went in the jar, the sauce over spaghetti at midnight while Mom iced her ankles. On Sundays I logged hours in a yellow ledger like a priest tallying sins. We were 2 daughters, 2 roads, except I wasn't a daughter and that was Brooke's favorite twist. Mom wanted 2 girls, she'd say. So you owe me for taking the pretty job. I'd smile, because arguing with a narrative is like bailing a bathtub with a spoon. The facts were quieter. I co-signed nothing, borrowed nothing, and learned to notarize forms at the library where Ms. Patel knew me by name. When the landlord on W50th hiked rent by $150 market adjustment, I took a tape measure to every window and drafted a letter with numbers and dates. He backed it down to $50 and a fresh coat of paint. I learned leverage didn't have to be loud. It just had to be filed. Brooke learned different leverage, late-night stories, crying selfies, a chorus of friends typing queen behavior under photos of takeout towers. Dad's back forced him onto light duty, then no duty. He started refurbishing curb fines, oak chairs with one leg drunk, a cherry dresser with a cigarette burn shaped like Ohio. I posted the pieces with clean photos and exact dimensions, met buyers in the Giant Eagle lot, and texted Mom the deposit screenshot. For heat, I'd add even when it was July. Naming the thing kept it real. The jar stayed heavy enough to make the counter thunk. Brooke stopped by sometimes in a leased SUV that smelled like someone else's achievement. She'd sweep a manicured look across the apartment and say, "You guys should manifest more." I point at the ledger. "I prefer math." She'd roll her eyes like commas offended her. Tyler called me maintenance man and asked if I could install a chandelier in their condo for family rates. I brought a contract pad and wrote the rate. He laughed until he saw the permit clause. When Mom's birthday landed on a Tuesday between double shifts, I cooked pierogies in butter and onions until the smoke alarm yelled. Dad waved a towel, laughing, then winced. I pretended not to see it. After cake, Mom pressed the frosting-smeared knife into my palm and said, "You saved us this year." I told her no, we saved us. Brooke texted a heart at 11:58 p.m. Last minute love, timestamped. I don't hate my sister. I hate the gravity around her, how money slides to her side of the table. Attention. 2. A room rearranges itself when she walks in. Our parents shrink to fit the frame. Me, I learned to build frames that fit them. Payments on time, grocery lists that stretch, radiator keys that turn without stripping. 2 roads isn't poetry. It's receipts and who keeps them. It's who shows up with a wrench when the heat clangs at 2 a.m. and who opens a ring light. I'm not better. I'm just busy. And I keep my promises. The promotion in Columbus hit at 37. Logistics analyst to operations controller. Base to $96,000 plus a modest bonus if we beat shrink. I kept the 1-bedroom near Morse Road. 8 eggs and rice. Took the Megabass home twice a month to fix things my parents couldn't afford to call a pro for. Nights I studied GAAP and tax law like it was a second language. I didn't chase lifestyle. I chased margin. At 40 I closed on a 2-bed in Parma. Aluminum siding, new roof, a maple out front that threw shade like an umbrella. $238,000 with 20% down from a decade of jars and ledgers. I didn't drop the deed in my parents' laps like a game show host. I spent $650 with an elder law clinic and set up the Parma Family Trust, irrevocable. I'm trustee. Linda and Frank are lifetime beneficiaries with a recorded right to occupy that survives any drama. Clause 7. Be no sale, mortgage, or encumbrance without trustee consent. Actions under duress or fraud voidable. Copies notarized, stamped, scanned 3 ways. The mortgage is on me $1 $280/month. Autopay. Utilities in the trust's name with me as manager. I bought a steel lockbox for the documents and a fireproof bag for the flash drive. The house itself got grab bars in the bathroom, a shower chair, raised outlets where Dad leans less. 2 new mattresses delivered on a Wednesday. I tipped the guys in cash and they carried away the old ones that smelled like Advil and thyme. Move-in was 3 days of small miracles. I labeled keys with a Dymo, front, side, mail. I taught Dad the keypad and showed Mom the pantry with soup stacked like library books, dates forward. I stocked the freezer, hung a carbon monoxide detector, and swapped the rattling chain on the back door for a deadbolt that snicks like a seatbelt. We stood on the porch with plastic cups of lemonade. A neighbor in a Cubs hat brought warm chocolate chip cookies and said, "Welcome to the block." Dad sat at the table and cried, "The good kind." Mom ran her palm over the counter and kept whispering, "Our home, ours." Phone calls changed. Instead of "the radiator is knocking again," I got birdsong, a note about the mail lady's laugh, the way new windows make snow look like confetti and not a bill. I put their old landlord on notice and took date-stamped photos of the empty unit so he couldn't invent damages. I forwarded their mail, updated Social Security, changed pharmacy to the corner Giant Eagle where the tech calls Mom, Ms. Linda. Not next. On Saturday, I set intake forms in a folder marked house, warranties, the trust abstract, my trustee letter for utilities. Dad asked if this made him a guest. I told him it made him safe. The title can't be yanked through a sob story, a scam, or a quick refinance that hides in a signature stack. If someone wants this roof, they go through me and the paper. He nodded like a man who's had a pen turned against him before. I installed a ring and showed Mom how to talk through it without opening. I replaced 2 outlets that had heat scars, swapped in LED bulbs warm enough to feel human, not airport. I left the Fluke on the shelf next to their new toolbox, real screwdrivers, not a promo kit. I taped the plumber's magnet card inside the sink cabinet. I labeled the breaker panel like a map. Kitchen lights, bed 1, furnace. We took a picture on the porch. Dad in his Indian's cap he won't replace. Mom in a cardigan the color of peaches. I sent it to the family thread. The read receipts stacked under Brooke's name without a reply. An hour later she heart reacted and wrote, "Cute." Then DM'd me. "So what's my role in this?" I typed and deleted 3 times. Then I sent the trustee abstract, 2 pages simple, and said, "Your role is sister and daughter. The structure is handled." She called. "You put our parents' house in your name." I kept my voice even. "In a trust. I'm trustee. They have a lifetime right to live there. It protects them from oops and emergency. This is about dignity and continuity." Brooke exhaled into the phone like a vape ad. You're being controlling. I looked at the deadbolt catching clean. I'm being boring. Sunday I made Dad sign a standing work order. If he needs anything bigger than a bulb, I arrange it. He laughed and signed with care, looping the F in Frank like a flourish. Mom asked if she could plant marigolds in spring. This is your home, I said. She wrote marigolds on the whiteboard by the fridge, under garbage day, MON. We ate leftover cookies and listened to the maple rub the siding like a cat. I thought we'd slipped the old gravity. Bills paid, heat steady, the future in labeled folders instead of a prayer. Then Brooke pulled up to the curb in a leased luxury SUV, stepped out in sunglasses wide as knuckles, and said the line that made the porch go cold. If it's family, it's shared. So give me a key. First came the jabs dressed as jokes. Brooke breezed in for the weekend with Mia and Noah and propped her phone on a cereal box. Live on TikTok, she framed the pantry like a set. Welcome to our mini studio for minimalists, she chirped, where grandma and grandpa live small because the accountant's son loves control. Comments rolled, control freak, mooching off the elderly, a skull emoji parade. Mom smiled brittle and kept stirring soup. Dad drifted to the porch, pretending the maple needed his attention. After church, she chose the sidewalk stage. Evan took their spare keys so no one can visit without his permission, she said, voice sugar loud. 2 neighbors nodded, not because they agreed, but because public nods are cheaper than conflict. I swallowed it. I'd built the house on paper. I could hold the line in person. Then came the folder. Tax planning to keep it in the family, Brooke said, sliding documents under my parents' hands like a dealer who learned in a back room. Affidavits. A quitclaim deed spelled wrong. A family occupancy memorandum that looked like a Pinterest template. She said a lawyer approved it. There was no letterhead, just a Yahoo address in 10-point Arial. Her pen hovered over my mother's tremble. Mom asked if this would help the grandkids. Brooke said, it guarantees stability. The only stable thing was my jaw. My weekly $1,500 trustee transfer bounced. Then Mom texted, why did you stop? I hadn't. I pulled statements. The recipient line had been edited. Same name, different routing number. Someone had spoofed my alias and swapped the ACH profile. Brooke showed Mom screenshots proving I'd cut them off. The font spacing was wrong. The timestamp was Eastern and Pacific at once if you knew what to see. Mom didn't. Fear edits vision. A week later I dropped by unannounced. The entry rug was a drift of toys. Suitcases sprawled across my parents' bed like new owners. They went back to the city more comfortable, Brooke said, angling her ring toward the window. She added, casual as poison. And the house is mine now on paper. I drove to the old apartment. Same sagging couch. Same smell of radiator dust and boiled coffee. Mom cried into a dish towel. Dad said, we didn't want to steal from the kids. They'd signed. They thought a signature could beat a trust. Brooke had told them so. Cold clarity. I took photos of everything. The forged quitclaim, the affidavits, the notary stamp number, Brooke's tax plan cover sheet with a clip art gavel. I flipped to the acknowledgement. A notary named S. Calhoun. Commission expiring 2026. Address in Independence. I called. Voicemail said she was at a wedding that entire Saturday. I called the notary board. The commission number matched S. Calhoun, but her stamp had been reported stolen in August. I filed a complaint and emailed PDFs. Subject line, possible fraudulent notarization, family home trust. I opened my laptop on the sagging coffee table. I pulled the trust binder from the fireproof bag Mom had kept under the sink for safekeeping. Clause 7b. Clause 4. Settler assigns real property to trust. Beneficiaries retain right to occupy. Interests are non-assignable. I drafted a trustee notice of invalidity. Any deed or affidavit purporting to transfer the property without trustee consent is void ab initio. I printed 2 copies at the library, notarized by Ms. Patel, whose eyebrow rose gently when I slid the story across the counter. Paper saves quiet people, she said, stamping with care. Next, the bank. I filed an ACH fraud affidavit, locked down my alias, and set up hard token verification on transfers. The bank reversed the rerouted $1,500 within 48 hours and flagged the receiving account for investigation. I texted Mom a screenshot with a big green check and the timestamp. We didn't stop. Someone redirected. Fixed. Then the house. I changed the keypad code, documented the condition room by room, and pressed a Ring Neighbors post to counter the sidewalk narrative. Trustee clarification. Linda and Frank have exclusive right to occupy. House is not for sale. No visitor access without them present. No adjectives. Just nouns and dates. A neighbor DM'd. Brooke said you were evicting them. I replied with the trustee letter and the line. They chose to rest in the city for a week. They return Saturday. Brooke went nuclear on socials. My brother is financially abusive. She wrote over a clip of Mia coloring at the kitchen table. Her friends chimed in. What's yours is mine, it's family. I posted nothing. Instead, I emailed her a cease and desist for defamation and a demand to return all keys and remove personal property from the premises by Friday 5 p.m., citing the trust and Ohio's criminal trespass statute. I copied Tyler. The subject line was boring. Boring is a blade. She said I was overreacting. I said I was reading. I attached the notary complaint, the bank reversal, the trustee notice, and a photo of the misspelled quitclaim. I scheduled a locksmith for noon Friday and sent Brooke the service window politely, the way delivery apps do. I also set a calendar invite for Mom and Dad labeled home. Saturday, 11 o'clock, bird feeder. Because hope needs a task. The last thing I did before I slept was angle the porch camera toward the driveway and lay the affidavits on the kitchen table with a sticky note for my parents. None of this is your fault. Paper will fix paper. Rest. The maple scraped the siding. The house held its breath. The internet raged elsewhere. We had a camera-free talk at the kitchen table. The ring muted, my phone in the freezer like a prop. I went blunt. I'll stop the mortgage. The bank takes the house. You get zero. Brooke didn't blink. Your credit tanks. I live here free for months, she said, nails clicking the laminate like a metronome. She wasn't wrong. Default punishes the person who cares. I stared at the amortization I'd printed, numbers calm as rain, and felt something colder than anger. Arithmetic. So I did what calculators can't, brought paper with teeth. Thursday, 9:10 a.m. I sat across from attorney Martin Hates in an office that smelled like toner and coffee. I put the trust binder down. He flipped to the page I needed him to see. Clause 9, elder abuse trigger. Readable, not dramatic. Any transfer, encumbrance, or occupancy arrangement obtained by fraud, duress, or circumvention of trustee authority is void, it said. Trustee may A. Record a notice of void transfer. B. Seek a temporary restraining order to protect beneficiaries and premises. C. Change locks. D. Secure accounts. Hates tapped the margin with a blue pen. Clean work, he said. Let's make it loud enough to matter. By 10:32 a.m., his paralegal had filed a verified complaint in Cuyahoga County. Declaratory relief, injunctive relief, civil protection. Exhibits. Fake, quitclaim. Bank affidavits, trustee notice, ring stills, a log of Brooke's public statements. He walked next door to the duty judge with a proposed TRO and a photo of Mom's handwriting on the fridge marigolds. Because judges are people and people remember ink. At 12:06 p.m., we had a signed order. Brooke and Tyler restrained from the property and from contacting or attempting to influence Linda and Frank about housing. Effective upon service. Parallel moves. I filed a police report for attempted theft by deception and presented the notary board email confirming the stolen stamp. The detective's face stayed neutral. The file number mattered more than sympathy. We sent the TRO and the trust abstract to the county recorder with a one-page notice of void transfer and a request to index against parcel hashtag. The clerk stamped received. Paper slid into the drawer where sales and scams go to die quietly. Next, the bank. Hates conferenced in the ACH fraud desk. We layered hard token verification on trustee disbursements and set an alert. Any profile changes, freeze the alias and text me a 6-digit code. The misdirected $1,500 was already clawed back, but we added a second transfer path as redundancy because systems fail in the exact place you trusted them. At 3:15 p.m., I called a locksmith for Friday noon. Rekey front, side, garage, I said. High security cylinders, 4 keys, 2 to beneficiaries, 1 to trustee, 1 in sealed envelope with counsel. The invoice hit my email at 3:19. I forwarded it to Hates for the file. Boring is armor. Service happened at 4:07 p.m. A deputy knocked on Brooke's condo door, while Tyler filmed it for content and called it abuse. The deputy read the order, had them sign acknowledgement, and bodycam archived the moment Tyler tried to argue First Amendment at a civil restraining order. Paper spoke. The deputy just held the mic. Friday, 11:58 a.m. Brooke pulled up at the Parma house to get her things. Livestream already rolling. A sheriff's cruiser idled at the curb. The constable read from the order. Ma'am, you have 15 minutes under supervision. No filming inside. The home is restored to the trust. Comments poured across her screen. Gavel emojis. Free Brooke. Brothers are weird. She yelled family like it was a password. The constable's face didn't change. She carried out 2 suitcases and a ring light. The locksmith swapped cylinders while she watched. The soft tick of pins resetting more final than any speech. Inside, I walked Mom and Dad through the new keys. Front, side, mail, fresh labels. We sat. I explained the next steps like a recipe. We'd file for a longer injunction. We'd send a cease and desist to the platform for Brooke's videos that showed my parents' address. We'd notify the school that no one but Linda or Frank could pick up Mia and Noah from their visits here. We'd add a no trespass letter on police letterhead for the fridge. Dad listened, jaw tight, then relaxed when I slid the TRO across the table and he felt embossed seal under his thumb. That evening, Brooke posted a tearful montage over piano music. Childhood photos, the porch, Mia's drawing of a house with 4 windows. Caption: he weaponized paperwork. I didn't post. I documented. I screenshotted the video, preserved the URL, time-stamped it in a folder labeled defamation. Exhibits. I Venmo'd $40 to Mr. Gallo's grandson for shoveling the walk, snapped the receipt, and added it to house. Maint. Quiet beats loud when it doesn't get tired. At 8:52 p.m., Hates called. Hearing set for Tuesday. 9 a.m. Judge likes your binder. He paused. Bring your parents. Simple clothes. No speeches. Let the claws talk. I wrote twos, 9 o'clock on the whiteboard under marigolds. Mom traced the letters with her finger, then looked at me. Are we safe? She asked. We're safer, I said. And we're getting boring. The maple rubbed the siding, steady as a metronome set to home. The bank investigator called Monday at 8:11 a.m. We see 3 profile edits from an unknown device, he said. March 2nd, March 16th, April 1st. Each change redirected my $1,500 trustee disbursement to the same shadow account, then back. We opened fraud case #C93-118. I forwarded the affidavit and locked the alias behind a hardware token that lives in a drawer labeled keys. Boring, layered, closed. Pastor Jim pinged Mom that afternoon. Brooke, take a pause from serving. Word had reached him about blankets staged in the pantry for content. He didn't scold. He asked for restorative distance. The choir chat went quiet. Mom stirred tea without sugar and looked smaller. I said, people learn when they lose a stage. Dad said, some folks learn when the bill lands. HR reached Tyler on Tuesday. An email with a PNG of that forged notary stamp had circled his site. Until we determine the scope of document tampering allegations, you're off active duty, wrote HR. He posted a subtweet about haters calling jobs and got a handful of fire emojis. The site posted a subcontractor notice. We investigate. We don't clap back. Paper again. Brooke tried one more stream at the fence. Sunglasses on, calling Mom manipulative, and me, a narcissist with Excel. The sheriff ended it with a single line that carried the wind out of the chat. Any contact goes through counsel. She filmed his badge. The gavel emoji slowed. Content without a house is just weather. Wednesday, 10 a.m., I drove my parents home. The porch chairs were waiting like good habits. We changed codes, updated the ring passphrase, and added 2 medical POAs naming me. 1 page each. Simple. No non-emergency decisions by anyone else. Mom signed with a steady hand. Dad asked if he could still refuse kale. We put it in writing as a joke and taped it inside the pantry. I pulled the old pantry blanket stacked down to 3 for winter and moved the ring light into a plastic tote marked return. Brooke. In court, the judge looked over the binder, then the people. He voided the signatures as procured by fraud and circumvention of the trustee. He stopped before the cliff of criminal. I'm not sending a mother to arraignment over family chaos, he said. But I am going to draw a fence. He issued a 1-year civil protection order. Brooke, no contact with Linda or Frank outside counsel. Stay 150 feet from the house. He ordered civil liability. 2. Repay $4,500, 3 diverted transfers, plus $2,920 in legal fees within 60 days, or face judgment with garnishment. The clerk read the total out loud like a weather report. Brooke's face did a dozen small flips on the way to neutral. Tyler stared at the floor tiles and counted the squares with his jaw. Hates kept his pen still until the stamp hit. Mom squeezed Dad's hand. I breathed when the seal pressed and clicked. Bureaucratic percussion, my favorite sound. After, the family group chat went half dark. 2 cousins liked the porch photo from March and said nothing else. Aunt Robin texted, "We love you all. Boundaries are adult." Then she called me privately and asked if she could bring chili Sunday. Yes, I said. No photos. She laughed. I bring beans, not lenses. The next days were quiet by design. I set up mail holds and a second lockbox at the bank. I moved the trust's digital copies into an offline drive labeled Tree. Because family. I drafted a calm email to the school. Only Linda or Frank pick up Mia and Noah when they visit. Otherwise call me the trustee. The principal thanked me for clarity and asked for the order attached as PDF. I sent it. Checkmarks worked like sleep. I called the church office and asked if a volunteer could visit without phones. Ms. Alma showed up Thursday with cards and almond cookies, and sat at the table with Mom talking about marigolds. Dad took apart a wobbly porch step, then put it back better. I adjusted the door sweep and pretended it mattered more than it did. Sometimes small fixes are a way to let a house exhale. Brooke posted an apology that wasn't one. If I hurt anyone by protecting family, I'm sorry you felt that way. Comments split in 2 neat piles, stay strong, and return the money. I archived it with the rest, file name. NON apology, 4XX, time. I'm not a curator of pain. I'm just stacking proof where feelings can't erode it. On Saturday morning, the birds were loud. Mom poured tea, 2 sugars. Dad asked about the Guardian's bullpen like court never happened. I showed them the payment schedule for the $4,500 restitution. $750 every 2 weeks. Auto-drafted. They didn't smile. They nodded. We don't need her money, Mom said. We need her to stop, Dad added. The order says stop, I said. We listened to the maple rub the siding. The house believed us. I set a reminder. Renew the TRO to a CPO if Brooke tests fences. I printed 1 more copy of the trust abstract and slid it into the lockbox. The whiteboard by the fridge read Garbage Day, MON, and, under it, marigolds in Mom's steadier handwriting. I wiped a fingerprint off the new deadbolt and put my hand flat against the door, palm to grain, like checking a fever. Cool. Steady. Home. 5 years pass like a ledger that finally balances. I'm 41. My parents are 76 and 77. The house sits steady in the trust like a ship in a dry dock. Maintained, insured, boring in the most beautiful way. Tuesdays they watch game shows. Sundays I bring pancakes. Maple syrup in a glass bottle Dad insists tastes different. Mom grows mint and cherry tomatoes in planters along the porch rail. She deadheads marigolds with the same care she once used to count quarters for laundry. Dad reads in the sun with a ball cap tilted low. He underlines sentences in library books with sticky flags because he hates writing in margins. Borrowed things back, he says. Work climbed, not in a rocket, in a staircase. I'm senior director now. My credit survived the war. My mailbox holds dull rewards. Rate reductions? Platinum cards I don't need. I rent a small townhouse 10 minutes away. 2 rooms, a coffee grinder that sounds like optimism, a row of hooks where I keep 3 keys labeled front, side, mail. I pay the mortgage from a trust account that pings my phone at 7:03 a.m. on the 1st. I still file paper copies once a quarter because backups are a way to confess I've seen a flood. We did evict Brooke, but not with a sheriff, with silence. Not just from documents, from the dailiness where families are made. Who picks up milk, who remembers allergy meds, who hears about the weird noise the dryer makes before it breaks. She films shorts about toxic relatives from a 2-bedroom in Lorraine. The algorithm learned to leave us alone. When the clips leak through, someone's cousin sends a link. Mom stares at the mint, not the screen. I hope the kids have a good library, she says. We don't clap back. We renew the order each year like a flu shot. Paper is how we say no without a fight. The church adjusted around the absence. Pastor Jim still waves from the steps. Ms. Alma keeps bringing almond cookies. Dad joined a Tuesday men's group that mostly complains about the Guardian's bullpen and teaches each other how to use the health portal. Mom swapped choir for the garden ministry. She writes marigolds on the board every spring. When they dedicate a bench to the Thompsons who moved away, Mom runs her fingers over the carved letters as if touch makes it truer. We sit there after service and watch kids kick a deflated ball like it's enough. Mia and Noah? We send birthday cards through council. No messages hidden as traps, just a crisp $50, a bookstore certificate, a note. Proud of your reading. A boundary doesn't have to be barbed to be firm. The school has our trustee letter on file. The principal knows to call me if anyone appears with family says. No one appears. The house needed things in 5 years. A new water heater at year 3. A roof inspection after the hail that sounded like 1,000 marbles. 2 porch boards replaced where the maple drips. Each invoice lives in the folder house, maint with photos before and after. Dad now labels breakers in a shaky but readable script. Mom writes recipes in a notebook titled, We Know How Now. Meatloaf with oats instead of breadcrumbs, pancakes with seltzer for fluff, lemon bars that taste like summer and sugar burn. When I visit, she hands me the book to read as if memory can be audited. People ask how to fix families. I don't know. I know how to notarize, to file, to draw a fence that doesn't bleed. I know charity isn't a ladder for someone else's greed. Locks aren't punishments. They're promises to the people inside. When Mom stares into the distance, I know it's the grandkids. We're not cruel, we're protected. Protection looks like monthly pill packs organized by color, like brass numbers bright on the curb so EMTs see them fast, like a spare key in a sealed envelope at the lawyer's office with a letter that says please respect the structure that kept us safe. Some sunsets I sit on the porch and count cars. A kid bikes by with a baseball card clipped to the fork so the spokes click like time. The maple shadows the siding just right. I think about the night I put my hand on this door and felt it cool and steady. Locks don't just change doors, they change boundaries. They make the shape of care visible. Brooke chose herself. I chose them. The house that almost broke us turned out to be a values test. Title versus dignity, image versus care, tricks versus responsibility. We wrote our answers in ink. And every morning, the door opens to birds and coffee and the sound of my parents moving through rooms that finally fit their names.